Alright lads, another round, let's go. Now, where did we leave off last time? I think we had a bunch of soap opera BS to wade through, didn't we? I don't know if you guys are actually interested in seeing that stuff. Personally, I'd probably skip it, but for the purposes of completion, just in case there's someone out there who's that's your favourite part, I'll do it. Alright. Ceremonial duty for the day of dissension. Morning haze surrounded the city of Dyer as the sun dawned on the day of dissension, the holiest day of the Nurity religion. It celebrated the first message received from God by Saint Dust and his 30 disciples. As per tradition, the celebration was held inside the Ark Sanctuary of Dustrinity, closed to the public eye. This year, however, for the first time ever, it was going to be televised. This was Lucian's idea, as he saw it, granting the people a rare glimpse of the grand ceremony and showing them how seriously their president took this holy event would ease any tensions that lingered in the region. And so we arrived at the largest cathedral in Swordland. A huge crowd gathered around our convoy as our car pulled up to the entrance. This will work out well, trust me, sir. Of course, that's only if the prayer is done completely correctly. Please don't forget the order. Oh, here we go. First you will need to grasp the holy scepter. With your left hand. Touch the altar with your right. Kneel before the archpriest and wait for the sword. Okay. This is a video game, honest. Oh, for God's sake. No pun intended. Then touch the sword with the hand you touch the altar with. Touch the altar with your right. Touch the sword with the right hand. Hey. There we go. 6. Hand the scepter over to the archpriest. And 7. C, I before E, except after C. Don't know. Receive. I do know, because it's already written there. Receive the sword. Then hand it to the disciple. Alright. Pretty straightforward, isn't it? I don't understand a word you just said. Just do your best to remember it. You can't afford to lose our religious base over this. You will have to go first. I'll come inside later and we'll meet up when your part is done. Good luck, sir. Exit the car. Greeted by a chorus of cheers and camera flashes. Great. The Arch Sanctuary was a sight to see. Well, I'm always happy to be in the public eye, obviously. That's not a flat rule for all public relations things, but in terms of democracies, obviously, you want to take up a certain amount of people's minds just so they know who you are. Name recognition is the thing that wins most elections. With its towering visage, it cast a shadow over a large portion of the city. Caw! Caw! I had to crane my neck to see the narrow spires at the top. Just standing next to it made me feel awe and dread in equal measure. As I reached the gates, I spotted my welcoming committee. The archpriest and his disciples were waiting for my arrival. At my approach, they all bowed their heads in respect. The archpriest gave me an infectious smile as he straightened back up. Tall and handsome, in his mid-50s, he was one of the youngest and most popular archpriests in history. Some of his more avid followers even likened him to Saint Dast. Mr. President, praise God. It is a blessing to see you on our most holy day. Welcome, welcome. Archpriest, The crowd was still cheering loudly. The archpriest turned and raised both of his hands, and then everyone immediately fell silent. "O great people of Swordland, once again we are gathered here to honour the day of dissension. I am indescribably happy to be sharing this moment with you, as well as every blued and sword, old and young, tuning into their television to watch this holy commemoration. Along with the leader of our great nation, I say, let the holy day begin. Stay far from evil, O sons and daughters, for evil hides itself under many disguises such as blasphemy, apostasy, and even alcohol. Be good, my children. Praise God, praise Swordland." He smiled beatifically as the crowd burst into rapturous applause. After it subsided, he turned to me. "Shall we move inside for your confession?" I pulled the archpriest aside for a photo. Many flashbulbs burned my eyes at the same time. I heard whistles, claps, and cheers from the crowd. Most excellent. Before we went in, the archpriest looked at the crowd and pointed at one man. I turned and followed his finger with my eyes. It was a man holding a picket sign that said, "Stop the Religious Disharmony Bill." As you can see, every man has his faults. So does every president. So does every archpriest, it seems. But of course, I am but a simple man and a mere servant of God. He led me through the main hall, which had a stratospheric ceiling and Neurist icons lining the walls. We walked up to the creaking spiral staircase on the top floor and finally arrived in front of the confession chamber. "Right this way." He gestured towards a chair in the dark room. The room smelled of old mahogany and scented candles. The archpriest proceeded to light each and every one of the candles, one for each virtue and vice. Jesus, that'll take a while, lads. I'll be right with you. He left the room. A minute later I heard the voice of a sliding window right next to me. He spoke with a very soft voice. "Anton Rain, speak. Speak and confess now before the one God, and may he repent your sins on the most holy day of dissension." "I confess that I have been a bad husband. Family is the cornerstone of society. Under the watchful eyes of God, men are required to protect their wives and family, but God created us as complex creatures. At times, conflicts rise among us. Tell me, what was your sin?" "I have been neglecting my family due to the stress of my position. Tragedy of neglect happens to all working men that feeds his family. Rejoice, God is kind in the matters of family. Is there anything else you would like to confess?" "I confess that I am not sure what I'm doing for Swordland is enough. You do carry a heavy burden on your shoulders. I'll tell you what, this is good for the ego, lads. What you have confessed is not a sin, but you may share your burden with me if you like." I still don't know if I am doing the right thing. Absolute certainty only belongs to God. All else feels uncertainty. That must mean everybody, right? Everybody else feels uncertainty many times in their lives. This is especially true for men of power. Anything else you would like to confess? That's all for today. Before God, I thank you for sharing. You are now forgiven before God, Anton Rain, and may you never sin again. Fingers crossed. The sliding window closed and the archpriest entered the confession chamber. For the confession to end, you must extinguish the candles representing each one of your virtues and vices. With this, the once burning sins connected to you are now smoke and then nothing. Extinguish the candles. Well done, Mr. President. Let's move on to my quarters before the ceremony. He led me through the 1,000-year-old corridors to his office. The smell of dust and old tomes was in the air, along with the scent of burning incense being prepared for the ceremony. Tell you what, all this cultural stuff really does kind of colour in the, what the country of Swordland is like. Well then, please have a seat. The wooden chair next to him looked like it might turn to dust at a single touch. I sat down gingerly. It was surprisingly sturdy. Probably good oak. Are you ready for the ceremony? Absolutely. Let's get it on with it. Very good to hear. I want to give you something, a gift to celebrate this special day. He pulled out a large rectangular box from his desk drawer. The box was lined with gold and expensive gemstones. A beautiful sight, isn't it? He opened the box and showed me what was inside. It was a dagger. The handle looked like it was made of pure gold and had a very large gem at the end. On the blade the words were inscribed, "Victor Sis Dar." Victory is close. On the other side, another set of words, King Edmund. This dagger belonged to King Egmund. Yeah, Egmund or Edmund? Make up your mind, pal. It is a very important artifact of the Kingdom of Swordland era. It is now yours, Mr. President. Well, thank you. It's an honour. I was actually going to not go to accept this gift, but it's pretty fancy. Think of the past and think of who we are. Traditions are what brought us to this point. Now then, it should be right about time. A couple of knocks were heard on the door and a young boy came in. He bowed before the archpriest, then me, before letting us know that the ceremony was about to begin. We made our way downstairs where the ceremony was already in progress. The choir sang angelically as the archpriest took his position beside the altar. When they finished their hymn, an expectant silence fell over the room. It was time for my part. I started my walk, bowed, and approached the altar. All right, I might as well do this right. Grab the scepter. Grasp the holy scepter with your left hand. Good. Touch the altar with your right hand. What? Oh, then touch the altar with my right. Okay. Kneel before the archpriest. Cool. The archpriest laid the sword on my shoulder. Touch the sword with the right. The hand that touched the altar. Good. And then hand the scepter to the archpriest. Cool. Then receive the sword, then hand it to the disciple. Alright. Good. I got up and proceeded to my designated spot next to Lucian. He leaned over and whispered in my ear, "Compared to last year, that went surprisingly well, sir." My eyes met the archpriest's and he very slightly nodded. The ceremony went on for another hour and a half. Blinking. Finally, the noon bells chimed, marking the end of the cathedral service. We left the cathedral to greet the waiting crowd. As I stepped outside, I heard everyone cheering and chanting my name. Lucian's gambit seemed to have been a success. We waved proudly for a minute or two. "See, sir, I told you it would work." We entered our cars and drove back to our suites in Dyer. Alright, well, I suppose I better count that one as a success, even it was a little tedious. What has Luckhaven said? President attends a day of dissension. That's right. Okay. No diplomatic communiques. Sweet. Dinner at the family home. Right, that's right. Darling, what's wrong? It's from the Department of Education. Frank's university exam results are in. Howdy do. See for yourself. I looked at the page. Below Frank's name and address, his score was written 435 points out of a total of 1,000. Failed. All those years of effort down the drain. You know what this means. He's going to have to join the military. He could die, Anton. Does he know the results yet? No, but he should be back from school soon. I just don't understand. Frank's a smart boy. Why would he sabotage himself like this? Yeah, probably not enough contact with his dad. That'd be my guess. Have a seat, Frank. He took a seat across from us and I handed him the letter. He started reading it. Oh, Shiza. That's all you have to say? I need a moment. He went back to the kitchen sink and washed his face. A moment later he came back. I never thought this would happen. I'm so sorry. It's my fault. I should have been around to help you study. Right, you should have taken a break from running the country to help your loser son. It's going to be okay, but you really should have studied harder, Frank. I know. I guess it's the army for me then. So it seems. Isn't there anything you can do? If Alfonso could get his dimwit son into King's Hill University, I'm sure Wholesword State would have room for a bright boy like Frank. I'm not going to take life lessons from Evald Alfonso. Wholesword State would be amazing. A bunch of my friends are going there. I could still come home to do my laundry. Wholesword State it is then, though it's going to cost us a little bit extra due to the privatisation changes. No, I won't influence your life. You've got to live with what you've done. Well, you could also study abroad. Yeah. Look, nobody learns responsibility without giving the opportunity to fail. So, at one level, it would be right to just say, sorry, you made your bed, you got to sleep in it. But I only have one son, so I'm just going to pay the cost. I swear I won't let you down this time. Yeah, look, maybe it'll work out. Cool. Alright, personal wealth decreased. Sweet, I found something I can spend money on. Court strikes down Ursin versus Swordland. Now this is interesting. Chief Justice Hawker of the Supreme Court made an announcement after the majority of the justices voted against the violation of constitutional rights for Bluish citizens as proposed by Ursin. The landmark case, which was politically charged with the support of WPB and even PFJP establishment, caused a major disagreement between the Ministry of Justice and the Supreme Court. Criticisms were handed over to Minister of Justice Nia Morgner, who filed a concurrence. Chief Justice Hawker highlighted the importance of impartial justice once again. Yeah, interesting, it didn't go through. Alright. Ashraf University. Anniversary. Right, and enough with Bluish protests, and what has a radical got to say? Privatisation and justice failed. Yep. Naysayers, mate. Naysayers. Read the report. The Supreme Court has filed an 8-3 dissent and closed the Ursin v Swordland case today. Chief Justice Hawker dismissed the concurrence as of the Ministry of Justice, citing that the Religious Harmony Bill doesn't prevent Bluish people from practising religion in any shape or form. Further press releases were made criticising the words of the Vice Minister of Justice. Bluish constitutional rights won't be in question for some time. Alright. Cabinet meeting for the results of the vote. Lucian stood upright, holding a large folder of files under his arm. He bowed in acknowledgement. He looked exhausted. Construction progress in Conrail. Good. The Cabinet has gathered in the White Room, sir. The Vice President will be opening the session soon. We can go in whenever you're ready. Anything you want to say? No, sir, just keep your cool with the Cabinet. I believe concerns will be raised in the meeting. Alright, should I be expecting something? No, sir, I don't believe there's anything we didn't expect. However, our failure of the reforms had a huge impact on public opinion. That sucks. The party has been quite discontent about the whole situation. They believe your presidency has destroyed the USP's prestige. Alright, let's go in the meeting and hear these concerns. Of course. Lucian held the door for me and we both left the office for the White Room. When we entered the room, Peter was speaking to the Cabinet members who were already seated around the table. As soon as they noticed me, they all stood up. Good day, everybody. Please have a seat. Peter turned towards me. Everybody except him took their seats. He stood right next to my chair in the middle. And here's our president. He held up my chair for me to sit down and smiled. Please. I sat down. What's on our agenda? We'll be discussing our current status and planning the remainder of our term. Peter walked to his seat but didn't sit down. He took a look at the ministers. Now that Mr. President is here, we can begin the meeting. I know that some of you have had your concerns about the style of governance so far. There will be a time to speak up about these in the meeting today. But I must also thank you all for your hard work so far. We are very lucky to have a team like this. All of you have been invaluable to this administration. Lilius grimaced at his remarks. Having said that, now we have reached a critical point of our term. We are nearing the end. We have worked long and hard, but we couldn't reform the Swedish constitution. Our organisation was flawed, our party was not united. The very parliament we control has denied us the reforms. Lucian and I have begun investigating who let us down at the vote when we needed them the most. Well, this is exactly it, right? How are we supposed to thread the needle of reforms if both the Conservatives and the Libs don't vote for the reforms when we put them forward? Gloria and the Conservative wing of the party didn't back us up. Yeah, too much privatisation. Albin and the Reformist wing didn't vote for us. Kazaro Kibiner and the National Front MPs didn't like the proposal and voted against it. He paused and looked around the room. But the past is the past. We must now look towards the future. We are investigating and analysing our faults. We will be taking measures accordingly. He glanced at both Lucian and me. Our party still remains divided. In order to look at the future, we may need to make some changes. On the other hand, the opposition is exploiting our failure to reform. The latest polls show a steep decrease in the opposition's support. So let's start the meeting with a brief look at some reports. With the latest developments, we have seen a decrease in our popularity. Public opinion has shrunk since we took office. A major concern of the people is the state of the economy. We are slowly slipping into a depression. We're not, though. This will have dire consequences for our administration. We mustn't lose hope and give it our best. Swordland needs us more than ever. I'll give the word to the President now. Mr. Vice President, thank you for the opening. First I want to hear some brief reports from each ministry. Simon Hull, Mr. President, dear colleagues, Mr. Vice President was pretty on point with his summary of the current economic status. He also used the word depression. He couldn't have been more correct. Our GDP has shrank by 3% last year. This downward trend has broken our economy over the last years. If we cannot contain this in time, we will end our term, in the truest sense of the word, in a depression. I thought all the indicators were looking up. On the other hand, unemployment has greatly declined. We have managed to cut it from 16% to 12%, and we are estimating a further decrease in the near future. Great, that's good that that's working. He paused for a moment. Well, I don't want to get into too much detail right now, but I have to say that sadly our first infrastructure project has not resulted in much growth yet. Apart from all that, I'll finish with an update on our Lotus project. The manager reported that everything is going well and very fast with the Conrail Industrial Zone. Okay. 1L and 1W. I'll keep it brief for the sake of the whole meeting and end my report on that note. Good, so let's move on to the next report. I will keep it brief, Mr. President. The L1 railway has already proven to be a success. Well, that's not what the other guy said. We've already managed to bring food prices down in Greater Holsworth and Gippsland regions. Good, that's what I wanted. Our agricultural output has increased, also good, so we're already seeing investments coming into rural areas. The trade deal with Valen increased our agricultural exports from the Berger region, more good news. Investments in the region have greatly increased our agricultural capacity, fantastic. The investments also led to a decrease in homelessness and unemployment in rural Berger. Great, see what I mean? All these indicators are fantastic. Additionally, I bring good news regarding our investment. The management of Underhaul has decided to send big bonuses to the board after high revenue growth this quarter. After the successful contract win, the company has received and accepted several mega projects in other countries. The future stands bright for the corporation. The money should be arriving in your account shortly. That will be all from me. Good, let's move on to the next report. Pascal Benevol. What's that guy's? Mr. President, our state facilities require immediate attention. We're experiencing long lines in front of hospitals everywhere. We're also currently investigating some reports of a small polio outbreak around a village called Haimia. I believe we can get into more details in our policy meeting. These reports keep getting shorter. The Ministry of Defence has a very important meeting regarding our situation with Rumburg. The investigations show that Rumburg was in fact weaponising rebels against our state, of course. We have learned that they have been aiding the Bludish rebels in Valen too, to be expected. Our military must stand ready for any possible attack coming from Rumburg. We have gathered intelligence regarding their military research and production. That's because we let their spy in, you'll remember that. They are building a massive army. We urgently need to increase our own military production. We cannot let them threaten us like this. Make the necessary arrangements. We'll have to use whatever we have to use. We'll have to use whatever we have to its limit. We'll have to use whatever we have to its limit. Of course, sir. Mr. President, Perla and Stahlport have agreed to begin deal negotiations. We will be moving on with that very soon. Cooperation between Valen and Swordland has increased to a new level. However, we are seeing its negative impact with Lesbia. Oh, that's not good. The region is very unstable. With the incidents at Rumburg, Valen and Helgeland, we must be very cautious. We can talk in more detail at our foreign policy meeting. Good, let's move on to the next report. Our ministry is working day and night to improve our education system and increase its accessibility. We have since greatly improved our rural education, building new schools and bringing new equipment and books. Fantastic. We have accomplished a lot with our new curriculum. Our reforms will be greatly improving our output as a society. Mr. President, there is an important report from our intelligence officers. We have disrupted the radio signals of several active Bludish Freedom Front militants in Bergia. There appears to be some sort of preparation going on. We might need to implement some new measures soon. We will provide you with a more detailed report at a later date. One last thing, I would like to transfer the gendarmerie under the Ministry of Interior to improve the internal security efforts. I don't see Joseph accepting this. Well, he just might have to agree if the President of Swordland tells him to. The Ministry of Defence shouldn't be meddling with internal security affairs through the gendarmerie. We had several incidents where they were too violent too quickly, and it stems from military officers giving reckless orders at times. Well, if the security situation gets more problematic, then it might be necessary. It will eventually cause a problem between our forces. There are already miscommunications going on. Will you transfer the gendarmerie to the interior in the future? I will, and I will pacify Yosef by increasing spending on the military if that's what's required. Do you have anything to share, Ms. Morgana? Not at this moment, Mr. President. You're already well aware of what's going on. I will update you on our next steps in the judiciary in another meeting. Thank you. Next, I want to talk about our new focus and some of my plans going forward. It's time to focus on changing our party as a whole. I will add a new vision in our manifesto. Public opinion is concerning. We must focus on campaigning for the next election already. The state of our economy is very concerning. It must be the focus to achieve quick economic development. That's right. Swordland needs to become an economic powerhouse. Good. If there are no comments, let's move on with the meeting. I believe that is everything. Everybody packed up and left the White Room. Alright, so 2.5 years. Feels like 3.5 years. I'm just kidding, lads. So, plan is, I'm just going to try and make the economy so good that people will just have to vote for us no matter what else is going on. It seems like the straightest way forward, and it is what's best for the nation as well. So if I get voted out, at least I can retire with a, calm conscience. Give or take the odd sports car. I don't know if we ever ended up getting that or not. Read the report from Intel. Hailstone has revealed intelligence about a secret nuclear weapons program developed in Rumburg. No! I knew something was going to go wrong. Our intelligence has verified the details relayed about a heavy water facility in the north of the kingdom and a ballistic missile test site. Okay, so that's going to be way out of the zone of the map, so we won't actually be able to see it. The agent will be provided security under the protection program and will be given resources to transfer further intelligence to our units. Okay, that's good that we have an agent. Agent Hailstone. Oh no, that's the guy that we, the spy who defected and we let him in. Hopefully we can get more intelligence out of him. Okay. We need a nuclear weapons program, or we need to align with ATO, one of the two. Preferably both. If they have nuclear weapons, yeah, that means that we have to have nuclear weapons too, because if they have nukes and we don't, they're just going to consistently bully us all of the time. It's going to be brutal. Alright. I'll give you an example of that. During early Cold War negotiations, whenever the United States wanted something out of Russia, they would arrange to have a diplomatic meeting, and they would fly nuclear-armed bombers right up to the edge of Russian airspace and then veer off at the last second, and they would be doing that constantly in order to try and maximise the amount of confusion and alarmism and to kind of clog up the systems of bureaucratic systems of government so that the decision-making processes would have so many different things to deal with that it would start to cause problems inside the kind of communist decision-making process. I don't know if that was actually successful or not. I haven't read that, but it seems to me like it probably would be. So that's the kind of thing. I mean, I don't know if they have bombers. Presumably they do. That's the kind of thing that we'll be facing if they have nuclear weapons and we don't. So A, it'll make our decision making really hard, and B, they will have the advantage in every potential military conflict, and international relations is essentially revolves around predictions about who's going to be successful in what conflicts. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if they get the nuke, we're rooted. Okay, there's some protests. Don't care about that right now. And rural education improves significantly. I'm glad to hear that. That's good. That's our decision-making list there for those of you that have taken notes. Thank you, Mrs. Secretary. Okay, and what's this one? gang violence diminished. Good. So it sounds like the agreements that the trade treaty that we made with Valen has potentially limited our relationship with Lesbia. And Lesbia is the primary relationship which we need. So I should have predicted that. It's unfortunate. I will use the trade agreement negotiations that are going to be coming up to try to bring Lesbia on side and hopefully open up the door to joining ATO. I want to have a trade agreement both with Lesbia and with Valgsland, but I will sacrifice the trade agreement with Valgsland in order to increase the chances of having an alliance with Lesbia, or even if it only opens the door to ATO. 100% do that. Or if they supply us with nuclear reactors that can produce fissile material. That's the other thing I would do it for. Lucian and I walked into my office in the Maroon Palace to make my address to the nation speech. It was unusually crowded today. Cameras, lights and microphones were set in place and the crew was standing by, ready to start filming. You ready, sir? I'm always ready. Good, I think the crew is ready. As soon as you take your suit, we can go live. I took my seat and rearranged my notes on the desk as a crew member powdered my face with a cotton puff. After everybody was ready, the director gave a sign to start filming. I looked directly into the camera. Brothers and sisters, I'd like to speak to you about the events of the past month, about a great historic effort to give the words freedom, fairness and hope new meaning and power. From the moment I was sworn in, I have done nothing but fight to achieve the change you demanded. However, alas, my vision was too grand for the narrow scope of our current assembly. The assembly could not conceive of a swordland in which minority voices were represented and amplified. If assembly members had their way, Tarquin Sol's constitution would last until the end of time. See, so this is all of that like passing the buck that I was talking about. You've seen politicians do this on TV all the time. Exactly the same play. So they spitefully acted against me, putting their own pettiness before the needs of the country. Actually, if I was giving a speech, I wouldn't talk about my own failures in the slightest, but these are the options that we're given, so that's what we're going to do. So they spitefully acted against me, putting their own pettiness before the needs of the country. People of Swordland, Anton Rain will not let himself be so easily cowed. But I will tell you this, I am not done fighting for you. Historians shall look back on this as but a minor hurdle in Swordland's path to greatness. The future is in our hands, with or without the Assembly's support. And with the forces of law and order on our side, there is no end to what we can achieve. I took a deep breath. Lucian shooed away a fly from my forehead. We will start by focusing on the economy. With reform now off the table, I shall keep following through on my promise to improve Swordland's military. We must focus on eliminating internal and external threats. We're going to go the economy route, although I would actually hit all of these points in an actual speech. Thank you. I thank you for standing by me, your president, both in good times and bad. That's right, I thank the people. And God bless Swordland. Give the cut signal. Alright, what do you reckon about that speech? Maybe that will limit the damage done by people who think that not being able to get the new constitution through was a real failure. Okay, and I'm going to save next turn for next video. Alright, see you next time, lads.